Hey there, friend. You are listening to Flip the Switch podcast, where we talk about the things you can't find on YouTube, search up on Google, or even ask Siri. I'm Leah Marie, your host. If you have ever wondered how to get that 6, 7, and even 8-figure mindset, then you're in the right place. We all know that anything and everything we have ever done has been done mentally before it was ever done physically, even if it was on a subconscious level. The body must follow the mind. So I say, let's apply this universal law to business and be successful mentally, then allow the strategies we have to take us there physically. I am a brain hacking transformation specialist. I've worked with award-winning CEOs, Olympic-level athletes, accredited investors, a rocket scientist, and more, teaching them to rewire their thinking so their vision's impact is unstoppable, influencing generations. I don't tell you this to impress you, but impress upon you the power each of you already has access to, and it's right between your ears. I've been working with entrepreneurs for over 2 decades, and there is an indisputable trend that can be found. Allow me to let you in on the secret. It's mindset. Mindset is the deciding factor, not resources, influence, time, money, or even your talents or skill set. So in this podcast, you're going to meet incredible people, individuals who are crushing it when it comes to creating positive impact in our world. We take a look behind the scenes at what it takes to win in today's world so that you can apply these pieces now. Enough chatter, let's just jump into today's episode. Welcome to Flip the Switch. Okay, guys, I am back yet again, like I am every week. I know, you're getting sick of it. No, you're not. You love it. You love it. I know you love it. So anyways, we're back. This is Flip the Switch, and we are talking mindset, and it's all about the mindset that we need, right, for entrepreneur life. And so anyways, I am back yet again, and I have another fabulous guest. My guest today is Brooke Schultz. Now, she is amazing, of course, and I always want to bring you guys amazing people. And right now, you know that our Spotlight guests, all of them are creators of 6-figure earners. So we are going to have some more fun yet again. And Brooke is here. Let me tell you a little bit about Brooke. So Brooke Schultz is a business coach for service-based entrepreneurs. And she is the service-based entrepreneur coach for those who want to build 6-figure businesses and just let them live more and work less. So that is something we all want to hear about. So let me welcome you. Brooke, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I am really excited about this. So when I first thought about and looked at the intro of this, I said, oh, this is good because it's got some disguise. So why don't you share with our audience what's your secret sauce behind this? Because literally, like, you didn't say anything about like how you do this or anything like that. So is yours a social media? Is yours like, what's your thing that has you building this 6-figure earners?
That's a great question. So I actually have 4 different things that I work with all of my clients on, and it really depends on where you are. So it's not like a set structure. It's going to look different for everyone. For example, mindset, right? Some people have killer mindsets. Some people struggle a little bit more. So we kind of tweak it based on what every person needs. But the 4 pillars are mindset, strategy, systems, and support. And that kind of is the foundation for every single service that I provide to all of my clients.
I love it. So one of the things that we can point out right off the bat here is that Brooke has a framework she uses, but then she customizes it to the individual. So she's not saying, hey guys, I fly by the seat of my pants and we'll just figure it out along the way. She actually has a proven system here, but then she customizes it for the individual, which all of us love, right? Because we all have our own unique things that either hook us up or that we are amazing at. So awesome.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to like the whole idea of entrepreneurship in general, right? Like if you were building a business that was supposed to be super, super rigid, you would just be in corporate America.
So we're loving the flexibility. Like,
yes.
I love it. Okay, awesome. So why don't you share with us a little bit about how you got here? Like, how did you come to the point where you're like, you know what? I got the skills and I'm going to start like raising people up. So share with us your story of how you got here first, and then we'll dive into all of the mindset stuff and all the good stuff about how that happened and where our listeners are at and where they want to go and all of the other stuff.
Sure. So my whole life, I always thought I wanted to be a therapist. So that's what I went to school for. That's what I got my master's degree in. And when I was practicing, I realized I was getting really, really excited about no-shows. And I was 23 years old, like doing my internship in grad school. Like I should not have been excited about no-shows. And that was a big like light bulb moment for me of, okay, there's something off here. There's something wrong that I'm so excited when my clients don't show up. So I really had to sit down and do some inner work to figure out, what's going on, what's wrong. And to keep a very long answer very short, I just felt way too restricted in my position as a therapist between, insurance companies and having, back-to-back clients and having so many rules and regulations as to like how I could help, how I couldn't help. So kind of that obvious next step for me was to build a life coaching business. If I wanted to still help people in a similar kind of way, but do it on my terms, life coaching was the way to go. So that was what I did. And within 6 months, I had scaled my business to 6 figures, which as a 23-year-old fresh out of graduate school with no business background at all was like, whoa, it was like very exciting and surprising. So I really started to just kind of dive into it just based on where I was marketing. A lot of my clients were also entrepreneurs as well. So I started just being open about it and giving like little pointers, little pieces of guidance wherever I could. And my clients started seeing good results in their businesses because of it. So I realized I was onto something and that I was actually really good at business. So that was when I took business coaching and kind of like business development a little bit more seriously. And I started investing in actual like business training and like teaching myself real stuff rather than just kind of like doing what I thought was the best thing. And that was when I transitioned into business coaching, and that's where I am now.
I love it. That is so beautiful. Okay. So one part of the story that stood out to me, and I'm sure you guys are going, oh crap, I'm in that same spot, some of our listeners, is the part where you said you were excited about the no-shows. Because I feel like a lot of our listeners run into that where they make all of these plans and they're like going to launch something, or they have already launched it, or they just have plans, right? And something goes sideways and they're like actually excited because it gives them an out. And they're like, oh good, now I don't have to do this.
Right.
At the same time, like part of them's like mad because they're like, oh, that was my thing. That was going to make this work. Right. And so they're mad that it fell through, but then secretly they're like so relieved that it happened because not only do they not have to do it, but they now have an excuse for why they're not successful.
Right.
Right. And so I love that, like, you didn't just like, you started to recognize, okay, there's something going on here. Yeah. And I need to start asking myself some questions to figure out what it is. And then after you asked yourself the questions, okay, why am I excited when people don't show up? Oh, okay, well, it's because I don't love the way that this is set up. I don't love all the restrictions that I'm in. I want to do things differently. Right. And so then you shifted in being able to do that. So that's really awesome. I love that.
Thank you.
It's a great story. Okay, so tell us a little bit about what inside of your journey thus far, what has surprised you the most in your business growth? What has kind of come as a surprise that you thought was going to be totally different, but then surprised you?
That's a really great question. Oh man. What has surprised me the most? Okay, at risk of sounding super, super, super cheesy, I think what has surprised me is how different life can be when you kind of break out of like the traditional cultural norms. Like I was brought up in my family, in my community, at school, believing that like, you go to middle school, then you go to high school, you go to high school, you go to college, you go to grad school, you then get a corporate job, you work till you're 60. When you're 60, hopefully you have enough money for retirement. Like this is what you do. This is how you do it. So I think breaking that norm and saying, no, that's not what I actually want to do. And then even like to take it a step further, my first month in business at 23 years old, I invested like $20,000 into my business that I obviously did not have fresh out of graduate school. So again, breaking the norm, doing things a totally different way. And I really believe that it's been so eye-opening for me that like, whoa, you can challenge the norm of what society says you should or shouldn't do. And you can really build yourself a beautiful life. Like you create your life, not what society says, if you allow yourself to.
Okay.
I know that sounds really cheesy.
No, it doesn't. Unless like my business is cheesy too, because seriously, that is one of my favorite things in the entire world is challenging the labels that are given to us or that we accept on and live into. And then we are angry or frustrated or disappointed or resentful or all of the other emotions. And really, we need to stop blaming everybody else. We need to stop shaming everybody and ourselves and just say, okay, wait a second. What rules have I created that I'm living by? And are these rules, who were they created by? Were these created by me? Do I believe that this is how it has to be? Or were these rules created by my parents just because of what they grew up with? Like, we need to stop looking at that. We need to go, okay, what rules can I actually create inside of like universal laws, for example, right? Like those are things you can't change. The law of gravity, right? Even flight follows the law of gravity.
Right.
That's how it works. So, there's a lot of rules that we can create for ourselves. We don't always have to follow somebody else's rule book, right? Absolutely. So I'm sure like you, that's one of our favorite things to do is change the rule book that people play by, right?
And it takes a huge mindset shift to do it, right?
Yeah.
Like when you actually allow yourself to change the norm and then reap the rewards because of it, it's like, oh, what? I can actually do it this way?
Yeah. Which is interesting because when you look at little children, they try to change the rules all the time. And what are they told constantly? That's not how you do this, right? And so we squash it. And then you have to re-break that and create it again later, right?
That's so true.
I love the fact that you talked about investing $20,000 in your business right after. Like that must have been kind of terrifying in a sense. But tell us, where was your brain at? What was your mindset at that you jumped into that investment? Because you were not only investing in your business, but you were like, you were betting on yourself, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so my answer is probably a little different than what you would expect. I think it's kind of twofold. So part of it was I made the decision that I was going to start a business and that was that. And I needed what I needed, right? Like you can't expect to start a business and not invest anything. It's just not realistic. So part of it was that. And then I think also part of it was a naive 23-year-old brain, which worked out really well. I think there are benefits to that, just like you were saying with like little kids, right? I was 23. It's like $20,000 is a ton of money. And I help clients through money mindset blocks all the time, but regardless of how you slice it, $20,000 is a lot of money for anybody. And part of me was just like, well, this is what it's going to look like. This is what I'm going to have to do.
And it's interesting because sometimes we look at investments, like people look at investing in a coach and they're like, oh my gosh, the program is like $5,000 or the program is $10,000 or the program is $15,000 and they're like dying. And then at what point do they stop and go, wait a second, how many years have we been paying off my spouse's tuition?
Right.
And oh, wait a second, they're not in the career they went to school for.
It's
right?
So true.
So,
it's so true.
Come on, you guys, right? Like this is
about me.
Customizing something.
I'm the perfect example of it. I went to graduate school for therapy. I don't practice therapy. My graduate degree was probably $50,000, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you it wasn't one of the best things I've done. I truly believe everybody should get a therapy degree. Like I learned so much about myself, but still, right? Like I was eager to spend $50,000 on that. Why are we so hesitant to invest in a business?
Because of the rules. It's
ding,
the
ding, ding.
rule book we play by, right?
Exactly.
We all play by
back
the rules.
to standard.
Exactly. We're like, it's okay to put a ton of money into education when it's inside of the realm of an institution of this sort and blah, 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 blah. But why do we not transition that to say, oh, but how much more powerful would it be for me to take half as much of that money, a quarter that much as money, and actually have a coach that can streamline my business and take me from point A over point B, point C, land in point D, and have something amazing happen all along the journey, right? Like, when are we gonna sit back and go, oh, wow, that makes sense?
And it's not just coaching. I mean, I'm a coach, so obviously I'm a huge advocate of the coaching world, but it's more than that too. It's investing in like the necessary softwares and the team support. And there's so much that so many of us are so skeptical to invest in, yet we have no problem spending $100,000 on a college degree that you may not use.
Or $2,000 on a vacation, $2,000 on a vacation, but you won't pay a VA to take care of stuff for a year worth of work that could be $2,000. You know what I mean? Like, maybe they're just doing some small stuff on the side that literally could like take all of the menial tasks you hate off your plate.
And I think that's where mindset is so important, right? Of like asking yourself, why am I so skeptical to make this investment? And we all do it. Like, my business is very profitable now. I've helped countless people build very profitable businesses. And here's a perfect example. I made a $97 investment like a month ago, a one-time investment. It's not like a recurring monthly fee. And it took me like 3 days to make it. Meanwhile, my team, I spend thousands of dollars every month. Like, my business takes investments, right? But for some reason, that investment, I was like, is this worth $97? Like, yes, of course it is. But even still, like, at a profitable, successful business level, I still have those blocks, right? And have to push myself through it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that because, I mean, you know, I was just talking with one of the other podcast guests the other day, and we were talking about, it'll be in one of the other episodes, but we were talking about that whole idea of hiring people that have scars, right? Like, they've been through the trenches. We're at war, right? And majority of the war is happening up here between our ears, right? It's between us and ourselves, me, myself, and I. And it's like this thing happening half the time, right? But being able to connect with somebody that has been there on the journey and can help us make the right decisions and be a guide for us is an amazing tool to have. Okay, so let's move on from this and let's talk a little bit about what are some of the mindset pieces that you feel are really needed in order to hit that first 6 figures. And are there any habits that you connect to that? Because I'm curious, you know, I'm like, we're definitely seeing a lot of trends between all of these interviews, but it's always a good thing to ask, because the more people that say the same thing, the more we can go, okay, yeah, I can trust that. Okay, yeah, I can trust that. So tell us a little bit about, like, with your clients, what's the mindset that they often come in with, the mindset shifts that they kind of need to make, or the habit shifts that they need to make, or something inside of that realm that is kind of the foundation before you can actually even implement the strategies and that, right? Because we know mindset has to come before the tactical stuff, right?
Of course. So I think the most important thing when it comes to mindset, and really just anything in general, is non-judgmentalness, if that's even a word. Not being judgmental of yourself. You're going to have blocks. You're going to have moments where you're like, nope. And that's okay. We're all human. We're all trying to break certain cycles that society has put on us, that we put on ourselves. So I think that non-judgmental piece is really important, because you're going to notice those things, especially when you're working with a coach. Things are going to come up. Oh, I have this money mindset blocker. Oh, I have this blocker, whatever it is. And if you judge yourself for it, it's going to make it 10 times harder to work through it. So that's the first thing, is just understand it's going to happen. You're going to have blocks. Doesn't make you any less successful, any less of an entrepreneur. And then I think the next piece goes back to what we were talking about earlier, of knowing that your journey is so different than everybody else's. There's not one set thing I can tell you that's going to make you succeed. And when we get into that mindset, it usually pushes us a step back of like, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do, right? And I'll do it, and then I'll succeed. So like, I'm not going to sit here and say to you, journal every single day, Monday to Friday, about this topic, and then your mindset's going to be killer. Because journaling might not be what it takes for you. Journaling might be what it takes for me, but maybe not for you. And so finding every single person's individualized plan of how can we keep your mindset in check is really important. So it's hard to answer, I think, like, what is the one thing that all of my clients do? I would say the one thing that my clients do, or the one thing that I encourage my clients to do and kind of walk with them through, is acceptance. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're having a mindset block, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with you. It doesn't say anything about you.
You should celebrate, because now you have something to work on and you can actually, like, there's nothing worse than having an invisible glass wall in front of you and you have no idea how to freaking get past that thing. And you just keep ramming into it and you're just like dying because you can see your goals and dreams playing out on the other side. And you're like, I can't get through, right? Like, it's funny because, I mean, let's use an analogy, because everybody knows on my podcast, I love analogies. I love stories. So how often have we seen this happen? The fly comes in the car while we're driving, or the wasp or whatever. Let's go with the fly. The fly, because wasps are freaky while you're driving. So we're driving, right? The window's down. It's a gorgeous day. And we get to our destination. We do up the windows. We go inside. We come back out. We get in. The car's hot, blah, blah, blah. And we're sitting there and we're like, oh gosh, like this fly is smashing its face against the glass, going nuts, trying to get out, because it knows like freedom's on the other side. And it's just bam, bam, bam. And we're doing that. Like how nice would it be to be like, oh, hey, you know what? Let's change that glass from, instead of being clear, to like an opaque or a blue or a pink or whatever your favorite color is. And you're like, oh, that's what's going on. Like, literally, if I knew that was there, I could just slow down. I could climb to the top of the window and fly free. Mm-hmm. Right? So don't be mad at yourself that there's a block there, because guess what? That's part of growth. That's part of learning. We grow and we plateau. We grow and we plateau, right? And on those plateaus, that's when we hit the next block. And then we go, okay, well, now I need to do something different.
And we're all human. We're all human. Like, give yourself
just act like flies. We're all human. We just act like flies. So, but that's a reality, right? Is that because we can see our goals and dreams, we think that we should be able to reach them without any problem. But we need to remember that there's a process to growth and achievement, and that means that there are certain things we have to overcome. And so the first step, like you said, is remove the judgment and be excited when you realize, oh, that's why I keep doing this thing. That's why I'm going in circles. Now I don't have to be exhausted and frustrated anymore.
Right.
Hallelujah. Okay. So that's a good one. The second one you said is, my journey is unique. I love, 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 love this, because we all have been on social media and we have compared ourselves to others.
Oh yeah.
And how does that make you feel? How does that make you feel when you compare yourself to the next person next door, right? It makes you feel like crap. That's how it makes you feel, because they're showing their best and you're comparing it to your worst. Right? We don't compare equally, and we don't even have the same experiences. We don't even have the same talents. We don't have the same anything for the most part. Right? So I love that you said, my journey is unique. Can we please get over ourselves? Stop comparing ourselves to everybody else, right? Yeah. Because it's doing you no favors. It really is. And just find your path.
It's the same thing with everything in life. It's not just business.
Yeah.
It's everything. I just had this happen yesterday. I'm 9 months pregnant, and I obviously have surrounded myself with a lot of other pregnant entrepreneurs to keep me high vibe. And one of the girls that I follow, all of her content about pregnancy is so like lighthearted and beautiful. And I'm like, I've been so sick. I do not feel that way about pregnancy. Like, this has been so hard. And then I made a post on Facebook yesterday about just like playful, like, oh, I've been so nauseous because I can't eat and I can't eat because I'm nauseous. And she commented on it and was like, I feel this, like, this is me. And I'm like, I thought your pregnancy was a breeze. But it just goes to show, like, we can't compare our behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. We just can't. I don't know what goes on behind someone else's doors when they're not feeling well, or if they're not feeling well. And it goes to everything. It's not just business.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. So I love those two pieces because I feel like, yeah, people can utilize both of these thoughts in everywhere. And so honestly, if you are catching yourself inside of judging yourself, if you're catching yourself inside of comparing yourself to other people, you know, like, give yourself a second to be like, wow, that's amazing. I would love to be able to do that or be there. And we're done. Okay, now I'm going to do my thing.
And I will be.
Like,
and I will be.
There. Go stay there. And I'll be amazing for it. Because if I stay there looking, it'll just get depressing. Okay.
Right.
So those are two things that you're kind of like, okay, let's work on these things with your people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when people do come to you, do you find, because you mentioned this, where they're like, what do I do? Tell me what I have to do and I'll just do it. Do you find that's like that's like the consistent thing you hear people say all the time? They're like, I've been trying so hard for so long. Can someone please just tell me what to freaking do? I just want to get to the end of this race.
Yeah. A lot of people, I think, come in with that mindset of like, you know, you've built this successful business. You've helped tons of clients do it. So what's the secret sauce?
What am I doing wrong? Right? That's
right. What are they doing that I'm not? Yeah.
What do they have?
And a lot of people will give you an answer too. Like, a lot of people will say, you know, are you posting on social media this many times? And are you engaging with this many leads? And I just do not subscribe to that at all.
Mm-hmm. Because, and you know what? I know exactly why you don't. Because it's different for each person. Because the thing that's holding them back from whatever they want is uniquely their own glass wall.
Exactly. And I could sit here and say to you, you know, okay, so I post on Instagram, you know, 5 times a week. So you should post on Instagram 5 times a week. And then what happens is a month from now, you realize you hate Instagram and you've completely burned yourself out. I love Instagram.
Not only that,
that's why I do it, you know?
Yeah, but and not only that too, but I think that we need to recognize, so I love that you brought that up because that's part of the unique journey part, right? Mm-hmm. Saying, oh, okay, that's not me. Like, I don't like that, right?
Right, right.
And so, like, for me personally too, I would way rather just talk than have to write something.
Mm-hmm.
People talk about writing posts. I'm like, can I just do a live? Can I just do a live? Like, I just want to talk to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because for me, that's naturally me. Like, I'll sit next to somebody on the bus and we'll be best friends in 15 minutes. Right? Like, it just works. But if I had to write something to them, I'm like, I don't know what to say. You have beautiful shoes. I love them. You know, like, whatever it is. But, you know, like, I love that you brought this up though, because, you know, I'm going to be vulnerable for a second here. So I had this experience where I literally had I was going through marketing, right? And because I'm a coach too, and I'm like, okay, I built my business originally offline through invitation and referrals only. And then I was like, hey, I'm going to switch to being online, and crap, now I need to market, right? And I was like, well, I don't like marketing. And that was the box that I created. Was I don't like marketing. That was the rule that I created for myself. And so then I had to live up to that rule because I created the rule. And so I was like, okay, well, if I don't like marketing, then I'm going to behave this way. So I totally lived into it. And then I went through several different, very successful strategists who have helped tons of people. And at the end, I was like, how come it didn't work for me? Go through another one. How come it didn't work for me? Go to another one. And then, you know, I had to stop one day and be like, okay, obviously the common denominator is not them, it's me. Right? And I was like, what is the one thing that every single one of them has asked me to do that I have dug in my heels and said, no, I won't do to? Right? What is that one thing, Leah? And I was like, oh, I don't want to have a Facebook group. I was like, I don't, because then I have to do like the post things. And I'm like, I just want to talk to people, right? That's why I chose podcasting to start with. And so I created this whole world around what it meant to run a Facebook group and all of the commitment that it had and all these rules and everything like that, right? And it was interesting. So recently I just finally was like, you know what? I now know the one thing that is holding me back is the one thing that it was my rule, right? So for example, for our listeners, whenever you want to create something, there's always things you say, we always say, oh, I'm willing to do anything. That's BS. You aren't. I'm going to tell you right now, I am calling you out. That is 100% BS. You are not willing to do certain things. Are you going to sell your child to do that? No, you're not. Right? Are you going to lie, cheat, steal? I would hope not. Right? Like there's certain things that we're like, nah, I'm not going to cross that line. Yeah. But then there's other things that we say, I'm not going to cross that line, but it's only because it's actually a fear that's holding us there. Right? It has nothing to do with ethics. It has to do with fear. And so usually it's that thing that's holding you back. And that's why Brooke is saying, I'm not going to say, oh, it's just this, go and do this, right? It's like, no. This is not cookie cutter. I want to know what is holding you back. I want to know exactly why you don't want to do this thing. Oh, it's because this. No, it's not. Tell me why you don't want to do it. Oh, no, it's not. Tell me why you don't want to do it. Until they're like, okay, I don't know. And it's like, yeah, you get emotion. And then you're like, oh, that's why you don't want to do it, because you're terrified of success. You're terrified of failure. You're terrified of, it always comes down to fear, right? With Facebook group, mine was like, I was terrified of the commitment.
Right.
Why was I terrified of the commitment? Because then I was like, okay, well, because I have to stay consistent all of this time. And if I don't stay consistent, then that means that people won't trust me. If people don't trust me, that means I'm a liar. I can't handle being a liar. Right. Right. Mm-hmm. And so you have to follow the breadcrumbs to get to this place.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just that way with mindset, not to go on a soapbox, but it's that way with everything in our business. It's that way with strategies, right? Like there might be a strategy that you're forcing yourself to do and you're hating it and probably not seeing results if that's the case. Why? Because it's not aligned to who you are. People can smell it, right? My husband always says, dogs can smell fear, people smell bullshit. It's true. So if you're not enjoying it, you're not aligned to it, you're not showing up your full self, and people will know that. And so you're not going to see results, and you're going to burn yourself out, and you're going to take yourself down this nasty cycle.
And here's one of the interesting things is people that were in my Facebook group when I tried the first like 2 or 3 times, I would create it and then I would start stuff, but I hated it. And so then I would like ghost. And then I would come back and try again because I'd be another strategist, and then I would ghost, and so, and then I was like, gosh, this sucks because I'm like, this isn't me. This isn't who I am. Like, I'm not a ghoster, right? But I keep doing this in this place, and people are listening to this are going, oh my gosh, who is this like insane person? But here is the thing, you guys, because I want to be real and I want to be honest with you, right? That is something that I had to struggle with, but I had to realize why I hated it, right? And then I had to say, okay, is that true? Is that real? Can I shift that? Right? Can I change that to become something different? Can I change the rules? So now in my Facebook group, I'm like super excited to go into my Facebook group because I can do it my way. I could do lives every day if I wanted. If that's what I like to do, I could do a live. I can just do it my own way. How do I want to make this fun? If I don't want to hate the activity, then change the rules to make it a game, make it fun. And then I'm like, oh, okay, now I can do this.
I love that. Change the rules to make it a game.
Right? So, I mean, like if it is something that you're like, because we're not going to necessarily love every strategy that we have to do or every piece. So, I mean, I believe that mindset is the core of everything that we do, no matter what it is inside of our life. Right? Everything is done mentally before it's done physically. And so if you don't love what you're doing, you have 2 options, either change what you're doing or change the way you see what you're doing.
I love that.
Those are your options. Take it or leave it. Right? Like, I mean, my kids, they have to do the dishes, right? And it's like, well, I don't want to do the dishes. Okay, well then don't go play with your friends. Well, I don't want to play with my friends. Then do the dishes. right? And this is like, well, and I'm just like, okay, well, you know what? How about this? If you can get however many dishes you can get done in this amount of time, then and you turn it into a game, and you're like, I'm going to have a competition with you. If you can get the dishes done before I do this other thing, then you get an extra 15 minutes or an extra half hour or an extra hour with your friends, right? And then they're like, what, serious? Yeah.
Done.
Like, yes. And I'm like, but they do actually have to be done properly. If you do a crappy job, it's actually going to take you longer because
it doesn't count.
which I think that we need to recognize too in business, because if we do a crappy job because we're in such a hurry, it's not, you're going to have to redo it. So slow down and do it properly the first time.
Yeah.
Right? Do it properly the first time, just like the fly that's hitting the glass. Slow down and do it properly the first time. And that's why, with my Facebook group now, I'm like, I'm creating new rules and I'm playing it my way and I'm having fun and I'm so excited about it. And I realized that one of the biggest things that I needed in order for it to be fun is I needed people in there that were like me, that understood my brain. I needed to find and so I started calling out and being like, who's my soul sisters? Because literally there's no one on this earth that I want to hang out with more than my sisters. Like, I love my sisters. And so I was like, what am I doing? I'm like, no wonder I don't want to hang out in the group. I don't even know who these people are. I'm like, I just have to turn them into my sisters and then we'll have lots of fun.
I love that.
So change the rules, you guys. Change the rules if you don't like what's happening. Okay, let's move on. What is one thing that you think that our entrepreneur friends that are listening could do? Let me just think of the question that I want to ask the right question. Let me think about this. Because it's important to ask good questions, you guys. When you ask good questions, you get better answers. Actually, that's a good question. I'm going to ask you that, Brooke. Brooke, what question do you think our entrepreneurs should be asking themselves?
Great question. I love that. Happiness. Are you truly happy? That's like the number one thing. If you're not happy, why are you doing what you're doing? You get one life. And if you're not happy, you need to change it. Like, something's got to give, because your happiness has to come first.
I honestly love this. Whoa, we're getting weird. Can you guys hear me echoing twice? Okay. I literally just wrote this down last night. I was looking about, because I was thinking about the filters and thinking about how we simplify life and how we just slow down, because that's like my mantra, like, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Only do it once, right? I don't have time to do everything twice. And so one of the things that I was looking at is, I was like, okay, honestly, if it does not make me healthier, if it does not make me wealthier, if it does not make me happier, I am not doing it. And I don't necessarily mean it's going to do it all in that moment, right? Because just like taking care of our health, it's something that it's the little things we do each day that build upon each other. It's the same thing with wealth. It's the little things you do each day that build upon each other. It's the same thing with happiness. You do little things that will bring you happiness. So maybe in the moment you're like, this does not make me happy, but the results, the return on investment will bring the happiness, will bring the wealth, will bring the the health.
And I think we also have to be very honest with ourselves with that question too, because I think we could get in a nasty cycle of like, oh, I'm not happy with it right now, but once I see this result, I will be. And we really have to check in with ourselves, because that's typically not the case.
No.
Oh, I'll work till 3 a.m. That's fine until I hit that 6-figure mark. Once I hit the 6-figure mark, then I'll step back.
Which is ridiculous, because guess what happens when you hit the 6-figure? A new fear steps in that goes, holy crap, I now hit my goal and now I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. I better keep working until 6 a.m. Or if I want to make 200,000, that means that I now have to work all night, because I think that twice as much work will bring me twice as much income, which is not the case.
Right. And that's the habit that you've created too. If you stay up until 3 a.m. every single day, and that's what it takes you to scale to 6 figures, what's going to happen when you step back? You're building your business in a non-sustainable way.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to check in with ourselves of like, is this truly going to make me happy? Or do I think it is? And I'm like putting my weight on that, even though I'm not sure.
Yeah. And that's the same thing too, is sometimes like we set up ourselves we look at our goals and our dreams. I've had so many clients that they're like, oh, I want to be able to do this and I want to do that. And I said, why? And they're like, well, because it'll be this, and I'm like, and what's important about that?
Right.
And they got nothing. And I'm like, whose goal is this anyway? Right? Like, whose dream are you chasing? Is this something like, honestly, a lot of people maybe they don't want what I want. I would absolutely love to just have my own little hobby farm. And I want to go paddleboarding in the afternoons, and I want to go dirt biking on the weekends, and I want to go play in the dirt and do the gardening stuff. I want to do that stuff. That to me, that is freedom.
Right. 100%. And I think like going off of what you just said, surrounding ourselves with people who either discuss that like it looks different for everybody, or people who have visions a little bit more similar to you is so important. Like I used to follow a lot of like very flashy coaches, not that there's anything wrong with it. Like people who travel first class all the time, people who love buying, Chanel, Cartier, all of these, designer brands. And don't get me wrong, I love that stuff too. My husband and I went to Thailand a few months before Corona and we traveled first class, but that's not the most important thing to me. What's more important to me is being able to be at home with my daughter when she's born. Like being able to make dinner for my husband, being able to see my family. Mm-hmm. Like my grandmother passed away a year ago, and the last 3 years of her life, I was there almost every day because I ran my business my way and it was my choice. That's more important to me than Cartier and Chanel. No shame if you love Cartier and Chanel. I do too, don't get me wrong. But like, if I'm following all the people who are posting, first class travel and all these luxury designer things, it's going to feel really weird to me because that's not what I'm working towards. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, sometimes great, but what feels more abundant to me is my time and having the time to do what I want and be with who I want. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important to like surround ourselves with those people too. Mm-hmm. So you feel even more supported, even if it's not your coach.
Yep.
Just who are you seeing their stuff every day, right?
Yeah. Like if you're going to follow someone, make sure that they're the type of person you actually want to be in the type of lifestyle they're in, because you might say, oh, this person is an example of success, and so I'm going to follow them. But then you have to look at what is success to that person. Does that match my vision of it? Because, I've seen some coaches where I'm like, oh my gosh, she looks so successful. And she looks like she literally just walked off of a catwalk and she's like in her high heels and she's in the city and I'm like, wait a second. I don't want the city. I was like, I don't want to be in the city. And guess what?
Right.
I might have the money to hire someone that can clean my house. And some coaches are like, oh my gosh, that is a godsend. Like, that is exactly what I want, is someone to come and clean my house. I don't. Right. Like maybe once a month they could do it, but I don't want it all the time because I love the feeling that comes when I am done scrubbing out the oven.
I love it.
I do. Honestly, if, I put a post up, I can't even remember how long ago it was, but my oven was like sparkling. And I just said, you guys, if you're angry, go clean your oven. But you know what I mean? Like there's just different things. There's a sense of accomplishment and pride in being able to do things your way in the way you want to do it. Like for me, I could go to the grocery store and buy the vegetables and do all the stuff, which I do all the time. But I also love going out to my garden and getting it straight out of my garden and knowing that I created that.
Yeah.
Right? So, you have to create your own rule book inside of this. Recognize what is success for me? What do I want to create? What does that look like? When I have this amount of money, am I going to hire a nanny? Or am I going to say, no, I want to do this part? Or maybe I'm going to say, well, it'll be a half and half. And there's not necessarily a right or a wrong way to do it. It's your way. Your way is the right way for you. Right?
Exactly.
And so
this is comparisonitis 101, right? It's not just comparing that person's picture on Instagram or, that person's income model or whatever it is. It's everything. Are we comparing ourselves to like the Cartier or the nanny or whatever and saying, oh, I guess I need that when I'm successful?
Right? Yeah, successful. Well, and it's funny, right? Because we can do that where we start comparing ourselves and you need to stop and go, wait a second, do I even want that?
Right.
Because sometimes we're comparing ourselves to something we don't even want. Like, honestly, there was a time where like literally I was like wearing, dress shirts every single day and doing all this stuff. And I was like, I love blue jeans. I love blue jeans. You guys, look, I am wearing blue jeans. I wear blue jeans to work every day because that's what is me, right? I'm a blue jean girl. And it's comfortable.
There you go.
I can wear high heels and I think they're fun for like an hour or two. For like an hour or two, and I feel sexy in them and I love them. But I sure as heck don't want to wear them every day. I don't want to wear like pantyhose nylons every day. I don't want to wear a skirt every day. I don't want, I just don't.
You are preaching to the choir. I've always wondered, how do people wear heels every day? Like, I love them for occasions.
Well, and here's the thing. Here's a funny story. And we're tangenting a bit, you guys. So, I mean, you can stick with us. It's fun girl talk. But I remember when my kids were little and I went through this phase, I was watching TLC, What Not to Wear all the time. And so I went through this phase where I was like, okay, I need something shiny. I need something colorful. I need something this. I need something. And literally I had, one day, I had gone to church actually. And this lady was like, I love coming to church. It's like watching a fashion show. And I was like, oh, like I almost died when she said that. And because, do you know why? Because when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, I remember it was my mom or my dad. I can't remember which one it was, but I remember it was one of my parents and they were like, Leah, church is not a fashion show. And so when this woman told me this later, I was like, oh my gosh, I am church. I'm like, I am distracting her from her worship by getting all fancy dusty. Anyways, it was really funny. But I thought about it and I was like, okay, why am I here? Like I spent how many hours preparing my outfit and I didn't prepare my mind at all for being here. Right? But we can do that in business. We can do that in parenting. Like how many times have you been at the park and you've seen somebody in an outfit and their kid takes off and they can't chase their kid who's like running towards traffic because their outfit does not work well with chasing children. And I remember when I first had kids and I was like, okay, rule number 1, I have to be able to chase my kid. Right? So I was like, I need cute, but I also need practical. Mm-hmm. So when you're thinking about business, you guys, when you're thinking about your relationships, when you're think longevity, think sustainability, not just cute. Mm-hmm. Right? And also for you, think what's good for you. Yeah. Well, and even when we talk about, like, I've seen a lot of people, they talk about with like creating copy, right? For things. And they're like, oh, it has to be like a cute and catchy saying. And it's like, wait a second. No, it doesn't. Right. It just has to be practical. Like it has to make sense to people. Like it can be super cute and people have no idea what you're talking about. Right. So I guess, you know what? The moral of the story in all of this is find what works for you. Find how it fits your dreams. Rewrite the rule book if you need to rewrite the rule book. There are certain guidelines that the rule book needs to fall under, which are general universal laws, right? Like, for example, if you want to have a good relationship, be honest, right? With anybody. Like things like that. But there's so much you can create yourself inside of that rule book. So this is like a ranting. I feel like this podcast is a ranting podcast today. I think it's important for people to hear and for people to think about, like all the time. I know, like we've all heard it, but I think just like that consistent reminder of like, hey, your rules, your way, your business, your life. It's important. And sometimes we need to be reminded that the quote unquote successful, the people that are making the 6 figures plus, the people that are creating the 6 figures, they're just like us. They're the girl next door wearing blue jeans. God, yes. You should see what I'm wearing right now. You're 9 months pregnant. I mean, the goal is comfy and cute. You got the comfy going on. You got the ear. You got it all done. You got it all done. Okay.
But it's true. It's true. Like, I actually just made a post about that like last week. I'm no different than the girl next door. You know, I'm no different than the entrepreneur who's starting her business today. I'm no different than you. It's a matter of like, I decided, I went for it. Are you going to do the same thing? Are you going to allow yourself to do the same thing?
And when you hit the wall, instead of sitting down and crying, which it's okay that you do that first, but then get up, stop judging yourself, stop comparing yourself, pull on your big girl panties and keep moving.
I just had this conversation with one of my clients yesterday because she was asking me about like a specific set of things that she should do. And I said to her, you're going to make mistakes. Like, know that from the get-go. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things that aren't going to yield the results you're looking for, aren't going to feel good. And it's still taking you forward. I'm not a believer in like, I guess like the traditional word mistake. I like to think that like when we make mistakes, it's still propelling us forward if we allow it to.
Oh gosh, so like, mistakes are like, that's how we learn.
Absolutely. But I think it's important to not judge yourself. It's going to happen.
Necessary. Mistakes are necessary because that's what teaches us what does work.
Right.
Sometimes you have to go through what doesn't work to find out what does work.
Exactly. But if we give ourselves that grace, then all of a sudden it doesn't hold as much weight, right? Of like, oh my God, I did this wrong and that person did it right. And now I'm 10 steps behind. It's like, no, you still took a step forward because you know now something that doesn't work. Like, you know, something that you don't like, that doesn't yield results, that isn't what you're looking for. So now we, instead of having 10 things to pull from, now we have 9. So now we're one step closer to finding what is going to work for you. So celebrate. Let it be easy.
I love it. Good stuff. Okay, let's end with this. What is the thing that you would say is something that if you implemented now at the stage you're at in business right now, that if you implemented right now, either in your mindset or in your actions or in both, that would take you to the next place? Because we're always improving. We always have something we need to overcome and to get to the next level, right?
Yeah. So more strategically thinking, hiring more support, which just being 9 months pregnant, not feeling great all the time. I only do what I can. So I put a lot of trust on my manager who helps bring in new team members and trains them. But it's a process, right? So that definitely strategically is what I need to continue moving forward. And then I think mindset wise, my guess is that I'm going to have some new blocks when the baby comes. It's just that simple. Like I said earlier, like, it's not like it's a destination. You're always going to have things that come up, that pop up. And it's a matter of like, are you willing to look it in the face and do what it takes to work through them? And I'm sure that being a new mom is going to change everything. Mm-hmm. So I think just like owning that before it even happens, giving myself grace that like, I may look at my business a little different. I may show up in my business a little different. I may need different kinds of support. I might need somebody to come and help me with the baby. I might need someone to come and help me with the house. Like, whatever I need is going to be okay. And I'm going to figure it out. So I think just giving myself that permission before the baby even comes is really important to help my mind.
I love this. I love this on so many levels. You guys, some things that you pointed out there, we talk about in my business, in my coaching business, we talk about setting yourself up for inevitable success. And one of the most important parts of that is expecting things to go wrong and then choosing how am I going to respond when things go wrong.
Yes.
So set up your goal for what you want to achieve. Plan out, okay, I'm planning for this. I'm going for this. This is the goal. Everything's in place. And then when something goes wrong, how am I going to respond? What do I want to do when something goes wrong? So maybe you don't know what's going to go wrong yet, but if you decide ahead of time how you're going to respond, it makes your life so much easier, you guys.
Oh my God, yes. And if you're expecting it and like you give yourself the grace. Yeah. It goes back to that non-judgmental piece, right? It's going to happen. Okay.
Put it in the equation. And you know, it's how life, that's one of those universal laws. In order for something to grow, there has to be a resistance.
Yeah.
In order for anything to grow in life, there's always resistance. And so recognizing that, right, is saying, okay, this is the goal. This is what I'm working towards. Resistance is going to come. I'm expecting it. I don't know in what form it's going to come,
Right.
but the best I can plan for is choosing right now how I want to respond to that, because that's what puts me back in personal power. I don't
Right.
want to be reactionary. I want to be proactive.
Right.
Yeah. I love it. Awesome. Okay. So, Brooke, tell us, where can people find you? I will add the links in the description, but just give a shout out where people can find you if they want to know more. And then we will leave it at that.
Awesome. My go-to place is my website, brookeschultz.com. You can find everything from there. You can join my email list. You can find my Instagram. You can book a call with me. So that's always my go-to. Check out my website.
Awesome. And I'll link that in, you guys, to the description to make that simple and easy. And just a reminder as well, my Facebook group is actually fun now. So it's still little because I just started it, but we are having a lot of, it's fiery. Let's just say that. So healthy, wealthy women, for those that are looking to jump in and work on mindset and stuff like that in there. So thank you so much, Brooke, for jumping in on the show today. It has been a pleasure. I think we've had a lot of fun. We've done some tangents, but we've had some amazing little nuggets in there. And I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Oh, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it too.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, you guys, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Flip the Switch, Mindset Mastery for Entrepreneurs. We've had so much fun in this podcast as always, and I want to remind you guys to go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and I would love to connect with you. So if you have a question that you want answered, jump in, leave us a review, then DM me a snapshot of that review with your question. Then just keep listening to hear your question answered. See you next week.